All right. So, essential components and characteristics of a quality physical education program. You can substitute that word for fitness education if that makes more sense to you. But basically, education is more than just training and coaching. We go more in depth with two different domains of learning. So, in teaching education or educators in physical education, we have to know what the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains are. Okay, so that's what kind of sets us a little bit differently up from other teachers, like in math or in science, where it's mainly cognitive. In phys ed, we have to think social skills or the affective domain. We have to think about cognitive skills or intellectual, and then also physical skills. So that's what kind of separates physical educators from trainers or other professions. Now, you might have teachers, really good yoga instructors that act like physical educators in that they do promote social skills and cognitive thinking. So that would be what we would call a physical educator, fully rounded there. So today, you're going to be able to describe why quality physical education is important. We always want to start with why we're doing what we're doing first. Then we're going to be able to describe the goals of a quality physical education program, identify the components of a quality physical education program, list the characteristics of a high quality program or teacher, and discuss your teaching philosophy or mission statement. So you'll be developing your teaching philosophy today. So Plato once said, don't get scared. Lack of activity destroys the good condition of every human being, while movement and methodical physical exercise save it and preserve it. Okay, so physical exercise is structured, it is planned. It's different than physical activity, which may not be structured or planned. Okay, why is quality physical education so important? We live a sedentary, convenient life, right? We know many of us have just adapted to the couch. We've adapted to staying in more than going out because it's more convenient. We get things delivered. We sit longer. 42% of people are obese, and 80% of adults don't get enough exercise. That's not on there, but obesity-related conditions include heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, cancer, which are all preventable with more exercise. 1 in 4 people will die from physical inactivity in the world. So 1 out of every 4 deaths is due to lack of physical activity. The medical costs for individuals who are obese are $1,400 more per year than a typical individual. We need to put our students on a path of lifetime wellness. Adults that you train or teach, high school students that you may come in contact with, we want to put them on a path of lifetime wellness. Not lifetime fitness, not lifetime health, lifetime wellness. Okay, we can do this by teaching why and how we do what we do. We want people to understand that obesity will translate into type 2 diabetes, stroke, and heart disease, which are preventable. We want people to understand why we're doing what we're doing. What are our goals? 1, probably the most important, guide people in becoming physically active for a lifetime as a physical educator, okay? A health educator might be a little bit different, okay? A yoga educator might be a little bit different, but really a physical educator, we want the people that we come in contact with to be physically active for a lifetime, okay? 2, ahimsa, right? Do no harm by choosing safest options available. Did I say it wrong? No, it was right. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So ahimsa. What does that mean in yoga? Nonviolence. Do no harm. 1, to yourself, don't do things that are bad for your body. Obviously, hopefully, you may have some good habits and some bad habits. We know what those bad habits are. Do no harm by choosing safest options available. What does that mean in physical education? Is don't harm your students or adult populations when you train them or teach them. If you see somebody have an issue in a certain posture and exercise, and we don't immediately correct them, they can get seriously injured. So the second goal is not to injure the people that we're trying to help, right? 3, decrease injury in sport and life so people can function. If you come and work out with me and I get you so sore that you can't sit down tomorrow and perform your job normally, or you just don't feel good because you're so sore, they might not come back to you as a client. You might think that your workouts, your training style, is the way everyone else should train and work out, but it's probably not the case. We're usually a little bit more biased because of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Does anybody know what Dunning-Kruger effect is? So Dunning-Kruger effect basically means that once we get provided some data and instruction, we feel like we're the masters of that data and instruction. And what that means is 20 to 30-year-olds, and I've gone through this phase too, you get fed all this information or garbage from social media, and then all of a sudden you think you're the new fitness influencer that has something to say about whatever the topic is, and you're telling people all this information that is probably false. So it's an over sense of information, meaning that you think you know more than you actually know, because the best learners or the best teachers, the people with the most information will always tell you that they're always learning and that they're open to change if there was a possibility. Where a lot of people, like sometimes in their 20s, that's what the research was done on, you'll see that they'll try to do things that may injure people because of their biases. So in goal 4, increase physical performance so people can move and feel better. So our athletes, we want them to play better on the field. Our moms and dads, we want them to be able to pick up their kids, squat down, play with their kids, lift up, put things overhead functionally, right? We want people to be able to go to work, all right, and feel good about themselves, not only just being able to move better, but maybe having more confidence and self-esteem. What are the components of a quality PE program? Well, in high school PE, they're guided by content standards. Whatever program or education system you preach, you're going to hopefully be guided by some type of standards, which are set by the certification standards, which may be their principles or mission statements. Okay, we want to make sure they're student-centered and developmentally appropriate. Physical activity and motor skills form the core of the program. So motor skills are basically any movement that you can think of that's structured. Teaches management skills and promotes self-discipline. So making sure that people are taking care of themselves and you're not having to do everything for them. Promotes inclusion of all students. So you're able to adapt and modify for any population that comes into your program. Perhaps it's someone that you didn't expect to be in your program, but you're ready for them. Emphasizes learning on correctly rather than outcome. We talked about that, talking about technique over how much you can actually perform. Promotes lifetime personal wellness. We talked about that. And teaching responsibility, cooperation, and promoting diversity. Okay. So first we'll talk about the standards. Standard 1, the physically literate individual demonstrates competency in a variety of motor skills and movement patterns. That's standard number 1 from the Society of Health and Physical Educators, Shape America. Okay, standard 2, physically literate individual applies knowledge of concepts, principles, strategies, and tactics related to movement and performance. So what are some strategies? What would be a strategy in a sport that you could apply for standard 2? What would be a strategy or a concept in a sport that a learner could apply that would reflect standard 2?
Like in baseball, like bunting?
Bunting would be standard 2. So if you were practicing bunting in your class, you would be focusing on one of the 5 standards. Physically literate individual demonstrates the knowledge and skills to achieve and maintain a health-enhancing level of physical activity and fitness. So that's your health components of physical fitness. That's body composition, flexibility, muscular strength and endurance, and power. National standards number 4, physically literate individual exhibits responsible personal and social behavior that respects self and others. So that's the affective domain that physical educators take into account every time we lesson plan. We're not just thinking about the physical. We want people to socialize, whether it's to build a rapport or community or to give each other feedback on your physical performance. So You may have some scales that students can fill out on how well they think they cooperated while they were performing whatever the task was after class. So, did you give people good comments? Did you help other people out during class? How was your mood? So that would be the social and emotional component of phys ed. Then 5, physically literate individual recognize the value of physical activity for health enjoyment, challenge, and self-expression and social interaction. So they not only value physical activity, but they apply it in their own lives. So what are the standards, what do they look like when it comes to kindergarten through 12th grade? So in kindergarten, the younger students are really looking at motor skills and personal and social behavior, because we know personal and social behavior is really important the younger you are. We want to make sure that that is really strong when kids are young. We want them to find personal space. We want them to be cooperative with each other. We want them to make friends. Okay, so that's really important. And competence in motor skills, skipping, hopping, running, throwing, jumping, yoga postures. We want them to understand how to move well. Now, the application of knowledge, as you see, goes from light, moderate to strong as you get older. So knowledge of what we're doing doesn't come until high school or after. So when we're working with our adult populations, they are looking for the application of that knowledge. Okay? Standard 3, physical activity and fitness. So where does fitness come to play? It's moderate in kindergarten through 5th and through 6th and 7th and 8th grade, because we really want students in kindergarten through 5th to have more fun than think physically fitness, push-ups, sit-ups, that type of thing. And then it's not until really 9th through 12th grade where we want them to have a fitness program that they can follow after high school. Valuing physical activity, again, will get stronger as you get older, because you're going to understand the value of physical education a little bit more as you get older. Okay? So for our adult population, we're thinking application of knowledge, physical activity and fitness, which is your health components. We'll go over that in a little bit. And valuing physical activity would be really important. Okay? When it comes to personal and social behavior, you'll notice that adults in a yoga class, you're not going to have to tell them twice to get off the other person's mat because they're fooling around. But I've taught yoga classes and other group classes where you do have students or people talking when you're teaching, and you might have to, that would be something that would be social behavior that specific student, I might, write down, social concerns or something like that, and then how am I going to be able to help them or help other people in that class so that we're not affected by maybe those interruptions. Defining physical literacy. So a lot of these standards, as you see, it says physically literate, the physically literate individual. What does physical literacy even mean? The ability to move with competence and confidence. So competence and confidence. So you're able to perform the technique and you're able to do it with confidence, okay, or competence, like you're actually doing it right. In a wide variety of physical activities in multiple environments that benefit the healthy development of the whole person. Okay, a physically literate individual is one who have learned the skills necessary to perform a variety of physical activities, know how to perform physically, and understand the implications and benefits involvement of physical activities, participate regularly in physical activity and are physically fit, respect themselves and others in physical activity settings, and value physical activity and its contributions to a healthful lifestyle. So student-centered and developmentally appropriate. So we talked about meeting where our students are at. So student-centered and developmentally appropriate. Students learn best when activity matches their physical and emotional development. So matching activities based on their age, their physical development. You may have an advanced class. You could have a beginner class. It's always good to title those classes appropriately so that you're getting the right population in your classes, right? Teachers must teach new activities outside their comfort zone. That's probably usually the hardest thing to do is, right, take your routine that you're used to doing and completely changing it for your students, right? And so that takes a lot of, I guess, confidence as a teacher to know that you can teach other things without, having to teach all of your own stuff. Develop a positive set of behaviors towards physical activity. So we want people to have a positive attitude, or we want them to have a good feeling about physical activity. So physical activity and motor skills form the core of the program. Again, what are we looking at? Let's go back here. We're looking at the components of a quality PE program. So we went over standards. We talked about being student-centered. Now we're talking about physical activity as the core of the program. So obviously a physical educator, yoga educator, maybe not a yoga educator because it depends on their philosophy, but most fitness educators want to make sure that motor skills are the core of the program. Pushing, pulling, squatting, hinging, skipping, running, any type of motor movement. We utilize physical activity to ensure the physical development of the student. PE is the only course in the curriculum that teaches motor skills in high school and elementary school. Okay, and then once students get out, obviously they can go to gyms and physical activity settings, but if the phys ed teacher didn't set up a lifetime wellness path, they might not be going that way. It is mandatory that the program focus on skill development and quality physical activity over than the outcomes, right? So you have a student that really wants to do a handstand, but doesn't have overhead shoulder mobility, doesn't have the wrist mobility or the wrist strength to do a handstand, then we need to make sure that we're finding activities they can do to either progress to that, but not do that, otherwise they'll get injured. So we're looking at quality. Teachers should demonstrate personal competence in motor skill performance in a variety of activities. That means teachers should be able to perform the movements, most of the movements. If you're not able to perform the movements, then you want to make sure that your students are demonstrating for you. Teachers should also achieve and maintain a health-enhancing level of fitness, not only for themselves, but also with their students, demonstrating healthy behaviors, also taking part in trying to, maybe it is losing body fat, maybe it is gaining flexibility, strength, and endurance. The teacher should be able to demonstrate performance concepts as they relate to skillful movement. So what are motor skills? Motor skills is a function that involves specific movements of body's muscles to perform a certain task. These tasks include walking, running, or riding a bike, very general. Continuous practice of specific motor skill result in a greatly improved performance, which leads to motor learning. And motor learning is a relative permanent change in the ability to perform a skill as a result of continuous practice or experience. So we're looking for motor learning with our students. We want them to learn and be able to patternize whatever we're teaching so they can do these exercises when we're not with them. Management and self-discipline. Physical educators are usually evaluated based on how students in their classrooms behave. Example of that would be if somebody walks by here and everyone's talking while I'm trying to lecture, and it just doesn't look like anyone's paying attention. That's what that means. So if somebody views your yoga class, how do they perceive you as a teacher? Do they see that your students are managed well, or do they have their own self-discipline? Are students doing what they're supposed to be doing? Administrators, parents, or outsiders look to see that students are on task and receiving many opportunities to learn new skills. So if somebody's parent or if an outsider was watching me teach you in the gym, are they going to see that I'm giving you extra supports, modifications, or adaptations if you need it? Or are they going to see that I'm just laissez-faire, just whatever, yeah, that'll work, When a class is well managed and students work with self-discipline, the experience compares to classroom instruction, bringing credibility to the program. So an example would be if you were able to teach a class with minimal instruction and students were just being able to perform tasks with little to no cues, right? So we've seen that in a yoga class where teacher would be like, inhale, exhale, and they're going through all these postures, right? So that would be very well-managed, self-disciplined class. Whereas another teacher, they might be doing all the poses with their class, and they might not even be able to see their class while they're performing the postures. So is it going to be well disciplined? Maybe not, because they're watching the teacher the whole time. They're not, maybe they don't know as much. Quality programs emphasize inclusion of all students. I teach adaptive physical education, and I've been doing that for about 10 years, so I know the importance of being able to include any individual in your program. For example, I teach a Saturday adaptive physical education program where I don't care what age you are, I don't care how old you are, I don't care what disability, what race, what gender you are, you can come to my program on a Saturday morning from 10:30 to 11:30 any Saturday that you want. If if someone's son or daughter has a disability, that's fine, they get to participate. So including all students, sometimes you can't do that for all your classes if it is a specific class. Let's just say it's called advanced yoga, which obviously means that the student needs to have experience, and you might not be able to have all students. So what do you do in that case? If you have maybe an 80-year-old lady who wants to come to your power yoga class, well, you're going to probably have to adapt or include her somehow. If they want to participate, they've signed the PAR-Q form, and they're ready to go. You're going to have to figure it out. So instruction is designed for students who need help the most, those with fewer skills, and students with disabilities. So what does that mean? When I instruct a class, I try to make sure I know your present level performance, and I'll be able to see that next week as far as the skills that we're going to learn. And I'm going to be able to see who needs the most help visually, okay? And I want to make sure that I'm able to help specifically those individuals that need the most help, because 80% of your learners are probably not going to need that much help, and you're probably going to have about 20% of your learners that may need your help, okay? Students who are skilled and blessed with the innate ability to have many opportunities to learn, they have the confidence to take private lessons, join clubs, and play in competitive leagues, okay? Whereas maybe students with disabilities or people with differences might not have opportunities to be in a rec league because they have a shoulder or hip issue. So maybe that's why they go to these fitness classes, because they can't play recreational sports, or maybe they've never played recreational sports and they're looking for training that is inclusive. Unskilled or people with disabilities may lack confidence and are often unable to help themselves. So depending on the individual, they might need physical supports. They might lack the confidence, and you might just need to be really enthusiastic and passionate when you're around them to get them to feel confident and feel like that it's okay for them to be helped. And instruction regressions, lateralizations, and progressions ensures all students are met regardless of their ability. So when you instruct, you're going to have regressions, lateralizations, and progressions for your main exercises, okay? Now, not every exercise should have one, but I would say most of your exercises that you teach, you should be able to say, all right, if I'm in here, warrior one here, and I can't get into it, maybe I have two dowels supporting me. That would be my regression. Supported. Anything that's supported would be a regression, right? Supported warrior one, okay? An advanced warrior one, maybe that is bringing the overhead reach, or maybe there isn't really a progression to overhead one, to warrior one. Maybe that is the progression, okay? But you need to have something that is similar, lateralization. So if I'm in warrior one and I need to get my outside of my edge foot down, and for some reason that's hurting my back foot, maybe a lateralization be just go into a lunge position or crescent warrior position, because it might be easier for me to get into that position, okay? So a lateralization might not be a regression, it might be just something a little bit different that helps them do what you're asking them to do. Development, like I said, is more important than the product of the skill. When individuals are learning new motor skills, performing the skill correctly is more important than the outcome. Focus on proper techniques first before skill performance. Worry about how to perform the activity, not what the product of the activity results in. A lot of times we like to videotape ourselves and we like to see the final product or the outcome, right? But we're not maybe thinking about the technique. We're thinking about the actual video. Focus on catching the ball, not how many balls that you dropped. Okay. Focus on gait in your walking posture, maybe not how many steps that you've walked. Focus on your balance, not how long you can hold it. So if I'm thinking, okay, 1, 2, 3, and I'm thinking all about the outcome instead of actually thinking, all right, I need to stabilize my foot. I need to give a little bend in my knee. I need to make sure that maybe my arms need to be like that, as opposed to hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Focus on the exercise technique, not how much weight you lifted. A quality program promotes lifetime activities. Okay, quality education programs prepare people to participate in activities they can perform for a lifetime. You want to consider the individual where they are at. Athletic populations may perform at a higher level than a typical adult population who may just need functional fitness. So you might have advanced athletes if you work at a sports and conditioning center or a strength and conditioning program like here on campus for our D1 athletes. Or you might be working with adults, or you might be working with older adults, maybe 60, 70, 80-year-olds, okay? It just depends. Walking is the most reported activity in adulthood, so that's typically one piece of advice you can tell anybody is walk more, okay? Stretching, biking, strength exercises, jogging, swimming, and aerobics are also popular, and we want to teach health and wellness as well as fitness. So different examples of different physical activities based on intensity, moderate intensity, and vigorous intensity. So something like cycling at a pace at less than 10 miles per hour, or water aerobics, gardening, walking at less than 3 miles per hour or 3 miles per hour, tennis, and snorkeling. Those would be all moderate. So something like vigorous would be jogging or running, sprinting, swimming, laps, dance class, cycling at a pace that's higher than 10 miles per hour, downhill skiing, and jumping rope. And we need a combination of moderate and vigorous activities. So the evolved concept of wellness, we have physical, mental, emotional, intellectual, social, and environmental health. So when we talk about wellness, that's what we mean. A person who lives a healthy lifestyle avoids stress and negative health behaviors. Okay, how do you avoid stress and negative health behaviors?
You can go for a walk, you could practice something your hobby, do whatever.
For sure, yeah. And eats nutritionally appropriate foods, enjoys positive relationships, engages in routine physical activity. That's a person who lives a healthy lifestyle. So among adults and older adults, physical activity can lower the risk of early death, coronary heart disease and stroke, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, breast and colon cancer, falls, and depression. Among children, it can increase or improve bone health, cardiorespiratory fitness, muscular fitness, body composition, and social development and confidence. Okay? So a little bit different depending on what your age is. So you have health-related fitness and performance-related fitness that you can work on with your clients or students. Health-related fitness is your cardiorespiratory fitness. We measure that by measuring your VO2 max, or we look at your resting heart rate. We can do resting heart rate test before and after step aerobics for 3 minutes. Muscular endurance, how many reps you can perform. Muscular strength, that is your 1 rep max. Flexibility is your range of motion. Body composition is your BMI or your body fat compared to the rest of your body. Performance-related fitness is your power, speed, balance, coordination, and agility. And we're trying to meet all of these guidelines in a physical education program. So we want to make sure that we're hitting all of these, not just one. So teaching responsibility and cooperation and promotes diversity. So cooperative skills precede competitive skills. A lot of times we like to perform competition in phys ed, and what happens as a result is either you hurt someone's feelings or you're almost intending for there to be this winner-loser outcome. So when I teach, I typically teach cooperative skills, cooperative learning, and I don't do as much competition as I used to, because I've learned that, especially with high school and younger, they really just need to learn the technique and the skills to be able to perform. That's why I don't have students race each other. I'd rather have someone race yourself than someone else. I'd rather have someone learn ball skills than get into a soccer game right away. I don't want to compare people during class and say, oh, this is the best person in class right here. If you don't look like this, it's not going to work. Students must agree to follow rules in order to enjoy group activities. So everyone needs to follow the rules. I mean, obviously, if you go to a yoga class, if everyone put each other's mat on top of each other, that would not, people wouldn't enjoy those activities. If you were at a gym and somebody didn't clean off the bench press and there was sweat all over it, people aren't going to enjoy activities around you, okay? Most high school fights, if you didn't know, occur when youth are in physical activity setting. So there's this different feeling people feel when they're physically active in front of other people. And we notice a trend in high school where more people are violent in phys ed than they are in any other class. And why? Because you are in front of people, people can see you moving, people see you talking, and those are two things that doesn't typically happen in a classroom environment. And then in the context of physical activity and performance, someone, might make fun of someone in a high school environment, and so that might lead to a fight, okay? Or, students might congregate in the locker rooms, and there might be a fight in the locker room. So just know that some people have a, I guess, negative feeling toward phys ed because of the way they grew up in high school. Some people didn't have a great experience in physical. Uh-oh. Okay. Are you sure? 100%? Has everybody got that? Like, okay. So don't worry about the emergency. I guess I have to acknowledge it. Did y'all get something on your phones? Like, come on, right now, really? I mean, I'd probably want to run outside, but we'd have to probably stay in here and lock the door. So that's probably what would happen, and then see if we can get those doors open, maybe. Get all the desks up, put them up on the wall. We'd get as many desks as we could over there. So just remember, if we have to. So behavior is highly observable in the physical activity setting. So people need to learn about similarities and differences between cultures. We talked a little bit about Claire, right? We talked a little bit about your culture and how, that's important to you. And it's important to learn about everyone's similarities and differences as a class or a group. Olympic activities, if you're a high school physical educator, those are the activities that bring people or cultures together. So if you ever had a unit where you wanted to make sure that we were talking about culture, you could teach something like Olympic activities and talk about, the different countries that go to the Olympics. Individuals differ regardless of race or gender. So we're different regardless of what color we are or what gender we are, okay? So don't just expect somebody with a certain race or gender to be a certain way, because we are all individually different. So characteristics, we've talked about this and y'all have talked about this. Positive learning environment exists. So that would be a successful education program in fitness, is that people feel like they're able to be open, you don't feel like you're going to get shut down if you raise your hand or made fun of, that you feel like it is a positive learning experience. So student choices offered, like I said, lateralizations and regressions. Okay, someone might not want to, let's just say, perform a split squat because it just doesn't feel good on that back knee. So maybe instead of that, maybe they're just going to do a goblet squat because they just don't want to do it that way. Or maybe their knees are giving them issues and they're going to do something like a straight leg deadlift or a bilateral hip lift on the ground or bridge. A wide variety of activities are available, not just your favorite ones. Students receive in-depth instruction, units, phases, short demos, efficient sessions. So students receive in-depth instruction. So you're going to be creating a unit plan, which is basically 3 to 8 lesson plans. And a unit will be something, if you're thinking about sport education, soccer would be a unit. Lacrosse would be a unit. You could have a yoga unit, okay? If you're talking about a yoga studio specifically, you could have a power yoga unit. You could have a relaxation yoga unit. You could have a hip-focused unit. You could have a spine-focused unit, okay? If you're a trainer or a strength and conditioning coach, you have phases. Okay, you have phases. Phase 1, 2, 3, 4. How long do I have the client for? I have them for 12 weeks. So I'm going to do 3 4-week phases or 4 3-week phases. Okay, and each phase is going to progress. Okay, and you can have phases in yoga too. You could have power phase 1, power phase 2, power phase 3. Students, emotional short demos and efficient sessions. So when you are instructing, you have a short demonstration, and you also tell them what not to do. So John Wooden, the most winning coach in history, when he coached his athletes how to perform a skill, he'd tell them what to do, what not to do, and then what to do again. So it was a quick, do this, not this, this technique. And they learned that, well, I mean, he was one of the most winningest coaches, and they said he was one of the best educators too as a coach because he was so good at teaching demonstrations with efficiency. All phases or units are integrated. So regardless of your units or phases, you want to make sure that they integrate into something, whether it's something that amounts to a full program or something that's integrated into your principles. So student question. So what is a quality program in your field? So think about your field of expertise and what would a quality program look like. You can base it on the information, you can add in information, or just what would a quality program look like for you? And we'll start with Jaylee. No Jaylee, sorry. Hayden. First, what's your field of passion? Sports. Okay, so what would a high quality sport program look like what sport would you? Okay, and so if you had a golf program, what would encompass a high quality golf program? Okay, so starting with technique. Okay. Mobility, so we're talking about some of the components. Okay. Maddie?
So I'm in fitness, so first always assessing the movement patterns would be like my number one big part of the program, and then stretching and movement like probably just like exercise, mobility, and then moving better in those moving
Okay.
better in those patterns and building strength functionally.
Okay, so a quality program in your eyes would be one that assesses their clients and then takes those assessments to use to help them improve their performance later on. Okay, let's get one more. Ashley Brown. Okay. You're making sure they're doing the right things properly. So we're going to get into teaching philosophy now, and we'll do a little bit of writing as well in a little bit. So a teaching philosophy is what you believe and how you perceive teaching. It's an articulation of how you feel about teaching and learning. And the first thing you have to do is develop a framework of your foundation, okay? And to build that framework, we're going to answer these questions, okay? What do you believe about the role of a student? Okay? Now let's start with Zach. What do you believe about the role of a teacher or student? So, what do you believe is the role of a teacher? What do you think they're supposed to be doing?
I would believe that they should be guiding the class simply teaching.
Just that's it? That's all they need to do? And what about the role of a student?
I would think that a student would be a good listener and actively participating in what the teacher is explaining to them.
Okay. Let's have Grace. Mm-hmm.
I think teachers, just like you said, to guide the students and sometimes like their individual, like help them discover more about themselves in that way, like physically, through their best potential in like a kind, inspiring way, and students should be open to receiving and as well.
Okay, so open to receiving for students and then discovering themselves as a teacher and a guide, you said?
Yeah, like teachers like helping the students.
Oh, helping the students. Okay, that makes sense. All right, Bella?
I think the teachers should definitely like listen to the students about what they have trouble with,
Mm-hmm.
and the students should be paying enough attention to know what they're like not understanding,
Mm-hmm.
and like just open to information, like obviously doing their part to like study and like make sure they actually know it.
So you said, teachers should listen to their students, and then also students should pay attention to what the teacher is maybe hinting toward. They shouldn't just, have to tell them everything that they need to know, right? Teachers shouldn't spoon feed their students as well, right? We should give them some opportunity to be able to figure things out on themselves. All right, let's have Josie. What do you believe? Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a great way to describe the role, because what you believe about the role of a teacher or student defines your teaching philosophy. So if you believe that teachers should just guide the students and students should just learn what the teacher has to say, then that's your teaching philosophy. So if you can elaborate on the role and you can elaborate on the student's role, you can develop a better teaching philosophy. And that's what I'm trying to help you do today. So why do I teach the way I do? So why do you teach? Who's taught a class before? Okay, why do you teach the way you do?
Because that's how I was trained, number one, so I know that it's safe and effective.
How do you? Okay, go ahead.
And then I also feel like I'm a very patient teacher and have compassion, and I teach that way because I know that everyone starts somewhere.
Okay. Now, who thinks they teach or train because that's how I was trained or taught? No one else? So, some people, will say, who are you trained by or taught by?
Well, I'm in group fitness, so I'm trained by Jada at the rec center for that, and Dora,
And you have to really believe in them in order for you to believe in yourself to teach the way you do, right?
Yeah.
So it's really important where you get your information from, because you're probably going to do what the information says. But what if you're not getting the right information? How do you change after the fact? You've learned that everything you've done was the wrong way. You know, are you going to still teach that way, or are you going to change? So you have to be able to understand why you teach the way you do. I teach the way I do is because I've learned a lot from many different instructors, right? And how do you vet those instructors, or how do you vet that information? You have to do a lot of searching yourself. Okay? What does learning look like when it happens? Marlena? Nolina? Let's have Chris. Chris isn't here, of course. Bailey? Mm-hmm. Is it 12:15? What's that clock doing? I've been looking at that the whole time. All right, this is what I need y'all to do. Watch the end of this PowerPoint, or read the last of this PowerPoint. I want you to bring in a sheet of paper next week into lecture, not lab, of what your training and teaching or coaching philosophy is. Okay, so write that down, because I'm going to ask you next week in class what your teaching, training, coaching philosophy is, and you'll have an example right here of what my teaching philosophy is, okay? All right, we'll see you next Monday, hopefully, if it's not too icy on those roads.